I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Energy Regulators Regional Association. ERA is a voluntary organization comprised of independent regulatory authorities, primarily from the Central Eastern European and Eurasian region, with affiliates from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and the USA. The prime purpose of the association is to facilitate the transfer of regulatory experience and knowledge among member organizations. ERA has decided to produce a series of video presentation on various energy regulatory topics for those colleagues who have problems with attending ERA classroom educational events. The project was co-financed by the Market Council of the Russian Federation. The topics presented in these recordings represent individual regulatory issues which are not necessarily related to each other. The topics are introduced by senior regulatory experts who are frequent instructors of ERA training courses. The first series of presentations include the following: general introduction of the European Union energy market by Mr. Jacques de Jong, former regulator from the Netherlands, currently research chair at the Grindengale University. Regulatory asset base for system tariff setting by Mr. Vidmantas Jankauskas, former regulator from Lithuania. Benchmarking of electricity distribution companies by Mr. Nebojša Despotovich of the Energy Agency of Republic of Serbia. And finally, electricity service quality regulation by myself, Gábor Szörényi, Director of the Hungarian Energy Office and Chairman of ERA. Please enjoy the following 60 minutes of presentation, and in case you have any question regarding the content and or any data of the presentations, please contact the ERA Secretariat through its website, email, telephone or fax addresses what you can see on the screen. Thank you very much.
I would like to begin this presentation by introducing myself. My name is Nebojša Despotovich, and I have been working as a senior expert for economics and finance in the Energy Agency of the Republic of Serbia. I have been working since 2006. Okay, this presentation contains 4 parts, and in the first part of this presentation I will focus on the theoretical approaches for different benchmarking techniques which can be applied for distribution companies. In the second part I will show you a practical example. You will see in the presentation that I dealt with 27 different distribution companies from 11 ERA member countries. In the next part, I will present overview of comparative results from applying different benchmarking techniques, and finally, I will present some my conclusions and recommendations for your future work on benchmarking analysis. Okay, before saying anything about benchmarking, I would like just to present 2 prevailing models of regulation, cost plus and incentive regulation. What can I tell for both of these methods? The main goal of these methods is actually to determine a level of maximum load revenue, which can be described as a revenue that energy entity can earn within a regulatory period. For a cost-plus method, a regulatory agency needs to set a price which enables a return on justified operating costs, depreciation, as well as a return on assets employed. The basic goal of this method is to identify and guarantee a certain profit. On the other hand, with the development of regulatory practice, a group of incentive methods have been developed. These methods are based on the performance of each individual distribution company, and performances are determined by applying different benchmarking techniques. In the next slide, I will give you just a short description of general formula which provide incentives to increase efficiency for distribution companies. And by this formula, approved revenue cap or price cap methodology for the distribution company in year T is equal to the econ from the previous year, which is increased by the planned inflation. This is consumer price index or retail price index, and less the incentive factor X, which is determined on the basis of results obtained by benchmarking. So if you see this picture on the slide, the idea is to set the price within a regulatory period from 3 to 5 years, and this price will start from the 0 year and will be increased for the planned inflation and decreased for the factor X, which is separately determined for each distribution company. The idea is to approve a price. In this case, this price will decrease during the regulatory period, and in this slide is present an ideal situation. In this situation, company realized improvements that are bigger than expected. So in this case, the surface of this red triangle shows that customers, actually users of distribution systems, have some benefit because of our lower prices for them. On the other hand, company realized higher returns. So this is an ideal situation. Now I will turn to the benchmarking, and I will try to define what is actually benchmarking. So benchmarking identifies the most efficient companies in the sample and measures the relative performance of less efficient companies against a reference performance. So, broadly speaking, benchmarking is a multi-step process for comparison of distribution companies that consists from the following steps. The first step is selection of a sample of appropriate companies. The second step is determination on the input and output data, which will be analyzed. Another step is identification of the most efficient companies in the sector and determination of the efficiency frontier or reference value. Another step is measurement of the relative inefficiency of other companies against the reference value. And final step, which is maybe not a part of benchmarking but is really important, is assignation of individual incentive factor X on maximum revenue to the companies, to the regulated companies. Okay, on this picture you will see how many benchmark models exist, and I will just explain in this presentation 3 models that I have applied in my benchmarking analysis. So I will tell you something about these partial methods or unidimensional indicators. Also, I will tell you something about parametric frontier methods, OLS and COLS, and non-parametric method such as data envelopment analysis. Okay, first, unidimensional indicators. These indicators, they usually appear in annual report of companies, and they are easy to calculate and interpret. These are, for example, distributed energy per employee, distributed energy per number of customers, OPEX, operational cost per employee, operational cost per length of lines, and many others. So, as I previously mentioned, they are easy to understand, to calculate, but what is the problem with the application of these indicators? Actually, in my practice, I met a lot of cases in which a company that performs well on one measure may do badly on another. Or there is a situation while one firm may do reasonably well on all measures, but not be the most efficient on any. So how to solve this problem? On this slide, there is one of the possible solutions. So first problem is how to select which indicator to take into account. So I have to answer that there are no unique approach for selecting the observed indicators which can be taken in benchmarking analysis. Another problem is, let's say, first solution. Another solution is to determine some weighting factors to each of these indicators in trying to calculate one synthetic indicator which results from all these indicators. Actually, the idea is to determine different weighting factors to all these indicators, but also there are no unique approach for this problem. So I just present one simple example in which you can see, for example, that in the first I just calculated two indicators and try to reduce them to one synthetic indicator. So you will see in the first case the company A shows much better performance than company B. In the second case there is a slight difference, and in the last case the company B shows better performance than company A. So it means that the final conclusions is highly dependent from your decision how to determine weighting factor to the observed indicator. Okay, this is all. Everything what I told you is a classical theoretical approach. After that I will show you what I did in practical example. Next method is statistical method of regression analysis, OLS and COLS. What is the idea of this method? So, as you can see on this picture, you can see one diagram and a lot of points. Actually, all these points represents one company from the observed sample. So, there is an idea how to find one line from all possible given lines on this diagram, which will be the best representative line of all these points, which is called empirical points. It can be achieved by the application of statistical method of regression analysis, OLS, and actually the line which will be the most representative is the line for which the sum of square distances of these points from the line is minimal. And this line is fully determined with only two coefficients. The first coefficient is angle between the OLS line. If we shift OLS line to start from the 0 point, between that line and vertical horizontal axis x. And the second parameter is intercept, which is a distance between 0 point and the point where OLS line cut vertical or y axis. Now we can compare the position of the empirical points of the concrete distribution companies with the average actually corrected reference line shows the average cost for each input unit of products. So what does it mean? It means that the points, empirical points, which are above the OLS line shows that these companies have higher cost than the average company from the observed sample, and vice versa. So it means that companies which lies below the OLS line, they have a lower cost than average cost from the sample. But as I previously said, the idea of benchmarking is not to compare companies with some average value, yet to compare with the best performance, the most efficient company from the sample. So, how we can actually find the reference value? The idea of the model is just to shift down the OLS line to pass through the point which represents the most efficient company in the sample. At that point is the point that lies below the OLS line and the farthest from it. So we will keep the slope coefficient of the OLS line and we will just change the intercept. Now when we get a reference value or COLS line, we can measure inefficiency of all other companies in the sample. How we can measure inefficiency? So we can tell if the empirical point lies on the COLS line, in that case, company will be 100% efficient. But, for example, on this diagram in case, when company empirical point lies in point P, so it means that its inefficiency is measured as a ratio between XPE divided with XP. It means that the company will be fully efficient on the point PE, and inefficiency is distance between PE and P. So I just want to stress that this method of benchmarking, one of the problems with this method is because the results are highly sensitive to one efficient company. And in practice, many computer programs can be applied for this way of calculation. I personally use Excel, but there are a lot of statistical packages like eViews, SPSS, Stata that are used for the assessment of parameters of this model. Okay, and now we can go to the last model, also theoretical approach to this model. This model is called data enveloped analysis, and it is a non-parametric method based on linear programming technique. What is the idea of this data enveloped analysis? Actually, the idea is of this method is to maximize operational efficiency of the company. And now, what is operational so-called Farrell efficiency? Actually, that efficiency consists of two types of efficiencies. There is a technical efficiency and allocative efficiency. So what is technical efficiency? Actually, technical efficiency reflects the ability of a company to achieve maximum production output from a given combination of inputs. And on the other hand, what does it mean, allocative efficiency? It means it actually reflects the ability of company to use inputs in optimal proportions, taking into account their relative prices. So, in the next slide, I will try just to explain in this one of these so-called input-orientated model. So, as you can see, this line A' it represents allocative efficiency, and this line S' represents technical efficiency. It's a limit. So, as you can see, company lies on a point P. Which does it mean? We first want to calculate technical efficiency. So, company will be technical efficient in case that it doesn't lie on point P, yet on point Q. Also, we will see that still in point Q, company will be technically efficient, but still will be non-allocative efficient. And actually, the company will be allocative efficient on point R, which lies on this line A'. So, the goal of this model is to measure technical and allocative efficiency, and from that to calculate overall efficiency from one observed company. What is the problem of this model? General idea of this model is that the production function of one company is known, but in practice, production function of one fully efficient company is not known. So, we actually use data enveloped analysis that includes solving a series of linear problems in order to estimate production function of fully efficient company. Now, what are the advantages of this model? This model provides the possibility of using a large number of input and output data, and it can be used as an input and output orientated model, and in that ways it can be used at least 2 inputs and 1 output, or vice versa, 2 outputs and 1 input. And you will see what I did in my practical example. Now I will go to the application of benchmarking. First, when applying benchmarking, it is necessary to take into account the following items. First of them is size and structure of the observed sample. So when you try to benchmark different distribution companies, the idea is that your sample must be as large as possible. Also, it is desirable that the sample consists of companies that operate in the same region, which are approximately the same size, operate in a similar legal and economic environment. I had a problem when I started to apply international benchmarking from the countries that different ERA members countries, but my conclusion was that those countries have similar legal and economic environment, similar historical heritage, and finally, you will see from the example, all of these companies are more or less at the similar size. Next dilemma is which type of data is used for comparison. So we can use for comparison operating costs and technical data. When we talk about the operating cost, it is possible to use TOTEX. What does it mean? To take into account total cost, which consists of capital costs and operational costs. In my opinion, it is possible to take into account all the costs, but I would not recommend comparison of TOTEX. Why? Because the calculation of capital costs differs among countries, and I still believe not only among countries, but yet calculation of this cost is different among different companies within one country. So another solution is to compare operational cost, and one of the best solutions is actually to compare operational cost from which are excluded costs that are not under direct control of company's management. I have tried to apply that approach to this example for ERA member countries, but finally I gave up from that idea because it was impossible for me to exclude all these costs from the operating costs which are not under direct control of company's management. So finally I decided just to compare operational costs. Okay. Technical data. Technical data are more or less the same, and the following data are used. For example, amount of distributed electricity, the number of users connected to the network, number of employees, length of the network by voltage levels, length of the network by power line type, the number and size of transformer stations, and others. Okay, next item that we have to take into account is quality of data. When we speak about data quality, it is maybe the most important part of any benchmarking analysis. So there is a rule, garbage in, garbage out, no matter which type of method you apply. So the general rule is to apply published data from official financial reports. In my example, actually, I didn't use all the data from official financial reports. Actually, I made a template and I sent that template to all ERA members, and I received their answers. After that, I spent a lot of time in data validation, and I tried to check how the data are correct or not, and that was the way how I use the data for my benchmarking analysis. And finally, choice of methods. In my opinion, you are forced to apply at least 2 different methods. Also, what is important to emphasize, that all data requirements need to be met for all the companies in the sample, regardless of the chosen benchmarking method. So, if you have a situation that for one or several companies within the observed sample, some of the data are missing or none but obviously incorrect, it is necessary to include either the data or the company from the analysis. So, if you just don't have one data for one company, you are forced or to exclude company or to exclude that type of data. Okay, now we can go to the example. So I have applied actually 3 benchmarking methods, and these are the methods that I tried to explain theoretical part of this method in previous part of the presentation. So I used partial indicators. So we can see I used combined indicator that was calculated by applying the weighted average to unidimensional indicators. I used weights of 50% for 2 indicators, distributed energy per operating costs and the number of users per operating costs. COLS method. Value of operating cost was used as the dependent variable, while the weighted average data on the distributed energy and number of users as the independent variable, with the selected weighting factors of 50%. And final method, data envelopment analysis. Operating costs were used as input data, and data on the distributed energy and number of users were used as output data. In the next slide, you can see some of the inputs input that I used in benchmarking analysis and some of the outputs. So, as you can see, I made a list of 27 different companies from 11 different countries. You can see different ownership status, different method of regulation that is applied in these different countries. You can see served area, total length of lines, total electricity distributed, total number of consumers, employees, cost expressed in US dollars, and final column is very important. These are the costs which are expressed in power purchasing standards. Actually, my idea is to introduce power purchasing standards, and these are the rates of currency conversion that eliminate the differences in price levels among countries. So, in my opinion, it was impossible to compare companies from different countries in dollars. Now, in my opinion, I got much better and much realistic results. Now, we can see different charts from the application of this method. First chart is megawatt hours per OPEC, unidimensional indicator, classical unidimensional indicator. You can see what are the percentage for all these companies. Another indicator is number of customers per OPEX. OPEX is expressed in PPS. And another slide shows you total weighted rank. So this is a rank with the application of weighting factor 50% to those 2 indicators that you saw on these previous 2 slides. Another slide shows you OLS and COLS analysis. As you can see, I first determined OLS line, then I just shift down in parallel these OLS lines to pass to the most efficient company and determine COLS line, and after that I measured inefficiency of all these empirical points from the most efficient line or COLS line. And these are the ranking using COLS method. On the next slide, you will see results which I got by application of using data envelopment analysis. And in my opinion, the best possible way is to see example that we can see ranking by using all three methods. From this ranking you can see that Hungarian distribution companies are the most efficient companies, which was expected result for myself in this sample. So you have always to take into account what are the companies in the sample. Just imagine that we compare Hungarian companies, for example, with Great Britain companies. In my opinion, it was expected in that case that Great Britain companies are more efficient than Hungarian. But from this sample, I expected and I got that results that Hungarian companies are the most efficient. And with the great certainty, we can also conclude that Latvian, Montenegrin, Slovak one company are the less efficient companies. What is also interesting on this slide, you can see that there are no last 5 companies in COLS method. What does it mean? This is because of the nature of the method. So these are extremely small companies, and actually their scores are actually in a minus. I will just return to this slide to show you what has happened. The point of these companies were on the left down on this diagram, and the COLS line intersect horizontal axis in one place, and it was happened actually for those companies that the value of efficiency will be expressed in minus. So this is one of the nature of this COLS method, and I just omit those companies. Another interesting data on this method is actually rank list by using data envelopment analysis. You can see that company Hungarian 4 has a result which is higher than 100%. This is maybe a bit strange, but it is usual, and it is called super efficiency. Actually, the super efficiency, it means that the company can increase its cost and still be efficient. So it means that the company Hungarian Chatty can increase their operational cost for 25% and still be the most efficient company in the observed sample. In the next slide, I also showed all these results, but in a curve, and actually we can say that there is a high degree of correlation. From my experience, because I did a lot of these benchmarking analyses, it is usual, it is maybe a bit strange to me, but it is usual that unidimensional indicators and data development analysis, they have a really high degree of correlation. Results that I got from the application COLS method slightly differ, but not too much. And finally, I would like to make some conclusions from this presentation. So, firstly, I would like to say that the results obtained from distribution companies' efficiency benchmarking can be of great importance for both the regulator and the distribution companies. These results are basis for assignation of individual incentive X factor to the distribution companies in ERA member countries. So I am deeply convinced that application of any cap incentive method without assignation of individual incentive X factor, there are no any sense. If you apply the same incentive factor to all the companies. On that way, you will punish efficient company and you will avoid company which are not efficient. Also, these results are indicators to point out companies' performance inefficiencies. Also, I would like to tell you that implementation of incentive regulation methods enhance the operational efficiency of companies, resulting in lower prices for distribution service users, as well as in more opportunities for the companies to earn profit by efficiency improvements. And finally, all three methods used, results have shown a relatively high degree of correlation. Maybe I would like just to add some recommendations to these conclusions. So the first recommendation is the main objective of benchmarking is to compare the efficiency of DSO company at a certain point of time or over a period of time. So as you had an opportunity to see this presentation, I just made benchmarking analysis at a certain point of time for 2009 year. My plan is now to make a benchmarking analysis over a certain period of time, for example, for 2009, 10, 11, and 12. And it will provide me much better results from which I will be able to make some better conclusions. Also, what is maybe is not obviously said in this presentation, but from my experience, application of all these methods is not easy to learn, and it's easy to learn, and it's not need a lot of time to learn how to apply all these methods. But in my opinion, data validation is actually a process that needs a lot of time and a lot of effort to check all these data and to avoid some wrong conclusion because of the wrong data that you use in the calculation of all of these indicators. And finally, please pay attention to the results that you got from the COLS method, because I have previously mentioned all results are all inefficiency results are highly dependent from the position of most commonly only one the most efficient company. So if you have only extremely efficient company, the result of all other company will be bad. And finally, also pay attention to the super efficiency factor with the application data development analysis. From my experience, if you have a percentage from which is over than 150%, something is wrong, or the data for a company or something in a calculation. With this, I will finish my presentation, and thank you very much.